Lyons has 3 churches, 3 taverns, 3 grocery stores, and at the top of our hill were 2 of the churches. The Lutheran church would have been on the right, and the Methodist church was on the left. My friends Dorothy and Linda Schinke, which lived across the street, invited me to go to Sunday school with them. So I did, and I went up and attended Sunday school, and I kept attending Sunday after Sunday. And finally one day, the minister came and visited my mother and father, and he invited them to come to church. Now the surprising thing was that my mother was a Lutheran, and she'd assumed all this time that I was going to the Lutheran Sunday school. When I went up to the top of the hill, instead of turning to the right, which would have meant the Lutheran Sunday school, I had turned left, and at that point had been attending with the Schinke girls the Methodist Sunday school. Ultimately, the minister persuaded my parents to go to that church, and our family became Methodist.
He got in trouble a lot more than I did. He looked good next to his friends. Most of his friends are like a bunch of Eddie Haskells, so he looked good next to them. No, he was in charge. He was in charge. He told Mom and Dad what to do, and he told me what to do, and he just kind of ruled the roost.
Yeah, most of the houses had indoor plumbing, but my friend Lenny Otto, who was one of my best buddies all the way through and ended up being my college roommate my sophomore year, he had an outhouse. And one funny story was Jerry Mahoney went to go to his outhouse, and on Halloween they had moved the outhouse 10 feet back, so Jerry fell in the hole on his way out to the outhouse.
You know, these were guys that were, I don't know, were 21, but there was a rule: no alcohol in the whole place. So if he caught some guy with beer, he'd either dump it on his head or dump it in the sink. He'd give advice about how to handle women and stuff like that. He was pretty advice prone to giving advice for everything and anything. He's firstborn, he pretty much knew everything.
Was his advice on women very good?
Well, it wasn't bad. I mean, it's always a wild guess in the dark anyway of how you should treat women, so I suppose he was just as good an advisor as anybody.
I went to summer school at UW-Madison, and I lived in a dorm called Sullivan, and she lived in the dorm next door, and we sponsored a wine and cheese tasting party, and she came to the party, and I met her there. And then after the party was winding down, we knew there was a good band at a bar just a couple miles away. So my brother wanted to go to that, and so I got Susan to agree to go to the bar and do a little dancing and meet my brother there, and that was how it all started.
Put on a wine tasting party for the women's dorm, and I went over there and we started chatting, and then all of a sudden he looked at his watch and he said, "Oh, it was supposed to be my brother an hour ago at this bar, will you come with me?" Everything was okay, and I looked back, I said, that wasn't really very much like me to go with a strange guy to a bar.
With her living up in Marshfield, we got to see each other on a very regular basis, and then it became obvious to me that she was an outstanding person, and I asked her to get married.
He gave no indication of what he was going to do with that.
I said, if you don't commit in the next year, we're going to break up. That if this is not leading to marriage. And then later in that fall, he said, how about we elope instead? And we eloped that Christmas.
Once you were born, that was the end of the summer schools, and now it's the national parks. And we did that every summer. I think we went to a national park and we camped and we hiked a lot, and I think that's one of the reasons you're a hiker and a camper. Went to school every day, and it was about 8/10 of a mile, and started out with you, Scott, and we just would jog to school, and I'd carry your backpack, and as you guys got older, 8/10 of a mile wasn't long enough, so we started doing routes, and we would maybe go as far as Wildwood and swing back, so you could run up as far as 3 miles in the morning before you ended up at school.
Run to school, and everyone in town knows of the Harrington boys. You know, their crazy dad making them run to school.
I got to go running to school every day up through first grade up through sixth grade. Finally got to stop running to school when I went to junior high. But I always remember him carrying my drum. He carried my drum to school, even though we were running. He'd run along with the drum. One of the funny things about Dad though is he takes some of these diets and tailors it to himself, like drinking red wine. Red wine's supposed to be good for your health. So Dad would like to mix some of that sangria with grape juice. Because just the taste wasn't very good, but he was supposed to do it for his health. I don't think there's a single person I would meet that didn't know most of my achievements in and out because of the number of times Dad would tell them to him. It's good to know he's proud of me, I guess.
Talking about my dad is his incredible ability to get lost anywhere. We'll all be together, and we'll kind of split up for a little bit, and he'll just disappear. We'll have no idea where he's gone, and he'll come back with some crazy elaborate story, and we'll all just kind of roll our eyes.
And we always would lose Uncle John, and he always inevitably had all of the tickets to get back on the subway or the L train to go back to your grandparents' house. And I remember as a kid like freaking out, and he always magically just showed up right at the last minute, right as the last train was available.
I was just a little tyke, and he had been driving me from some other city, and he tells Mom, "Oh, I forgot Scott in Stratford." And she's all freaked out. She comes running into the car, but there I am in the little seat. Dad had played a joke on her. So whenever he tells his story, he just like roars his laughter and thinks it's the greatest thing ever. Mom, not so much. She's always a little quiet during that story.
Well, Uncle John is always very encouraging when it comes to working out, and I recently did my first triathlon, and he made sure I knew how to set up all my equipment and drove me around the bike portion of the race, so that way I knew exactly where I was going for my race. And he also was very motivating to believe that I was going to do a really good time and finish in 2 hours or under, and I did.
People talk about leaving a wake of destruction, but in John's wake, he pretty much left the world a better place than he found it. You can see that at his 70th birthday party with all the countless people there that were touched by his life and who he had brought joy to. You can see that around Marshfield of just all of his volunteer activities and improving tennis courts and other recreational facilities. And you can see that it's right there with all the people he helped quit smoking and improve people's fitness and backhands. Mostly he'd improve your backhand by just picking on it until you got run off the court or it happened to improve. He also didn't show a lot of mercy in the croquet court.
You can't talk about a family event without talking about the intense games of croquet that have happened.
Last two players of this game. This is Poison. Oh, and Alyssa's out. What do you have to say over your loss?
It'd be you.
I always enjoyed him and my dad sitting down and telling us stories too. They always had so many stories about when they traveled together when they were kids. And I just remember as a kid wanting to hear those same stories over and over again because they'd tell them together and kind of play off of each other, and it was awesome. Your parents have always been my parents too. And you guys have been like my brothers. It was really nice growing up having that second family, and I'm grateful for them. When I was trying to decide what to do with my life and wondering if I should be a teacher or if I should go to law school or what I should teach, he's ultimately the one who kind of talked me into getting a double major and pursuing my math degree and finishing it. And it's what I do now for a living. If they wouldn't have encouraged me, I don't know if I would have done it.
His love and his presence has just loomed so large and all-encompassing in my life, and just opened so many doors that have brought me joy.
My dad's had a very profound impact on me and my life. He's shaped a lot of what I value, how I behave, and a lot in that respect. We've had a lot of fun times through the years.
While I'm staying at all if I drive up on my knees.